Hello, my name is Anuska and welcome to my channel. Now, this video today was actually a question a lady asked me on one of my other videos. So I thought I would talk about this topic because it's probably something that's going to help many people. So her question was basically, how can I avoid feeling nervous before speaking? So I'm not even dealing with nerves at all, because we talk a lot about what to do when we are nervous. But what can we do to avoid feeling nervous in the first place? So I'm going to address this in a couple of ways. One, from a sort of physical perspective, looking at the voice and also just the body more broadly. And then I'm going to look at this more from an emotional perspective, more from a mindset perspective, because I think that's so important. So really, we want to address this from two angles. So some of these you will probably be familiar with already, and others hopefully not. Hopefully there's something new in this video for you today. So first of all, from a physical perspective, I mean, if we can warm up the voice and the body before we do any kind of speaking, we're going to kind of release any nervous energy, nervous tension. It's just a really, really good practice to get into. It helps to kind of open the voice, release the voice as well. So really just starting with like shaking the hands, shaking the arms, shoulder rolls, all of this we know really kind of contributes to vocal tension and vocal tightness. So if we can just really release the hands, the arms, the shoulders, you can do some neck stretches. I've done a whole video on this, but really start to get some movement, really try and see if you can release some of that kind of nervous energy so that you are in a better position when you do come to speak. Now, specifically from a vocal perspective, a couple of things that are really nice to do. One is yawning is really, really good, not only because it really helps to kind of open the throat and release and relax the throat, but also it helps to kind of settle the larynx. So you can either do like a really over the top, like caricature yawn, like a, and make as much noise and take as much time as you like. But if you haven't got 5 seconds, 10 seconds to do the biggest yawn of your life and stretch your hands and your arms, then you can also do a stifled yawn, which is where you keep your lips together and you pull a kind of weird face. But actually you should feel the back of the throat opening and sort of releasing. So you can do maybe 2, 3 of those just to start to release. Really, really good for settling the voice. So that's the sort of physical side. Of course, as well, I bang on about this all the time, but warming up the voice would be really beneficial too, because then your voice is primed and ready to speak. Versus, let's say you have a presentation at 8 o'clock in the morning and you've just sort of rolled out of bed at 7 a.m. You're probably not going to feel fully physically prepared to speak. So actually giving yourself a little bit of time, even if it's a couple of minutes, to do some simple vocal warm-ups. One such warm-up you can do that's really nice and really quick is a really gentle hum. Now, with this, the idea with this is you almost want to create a slight arc with the sound. So I'm not going like a sort of monotone. It's like a and just allow, almost like there's a slight sigh in there as well. So this is all helping to kind of release, relax, and get the voice ready for speech. So there's a couple of things. I have done some videos on warm-ups, so I will put those links below because I think it's also just really, really useful. The more prepared you feel, the less anxious you're going to feel, which actually I'm going to talk about that quickly because that's actually on one of my points I wanted to talk about is preparation. Now, I, as a singer myself and someone that stands on stage and sings in front of an audience, I do think preparation is really important to some extent, but I think when we overly prepare, it can actually cause more anxiety than it actually helps to eliminate. The reason I say that is because sometimes when we practice to the point of you know exactly what's going to happen every moment of every second of your speech, if something happens and for whatever reason you can't open your speech the way you planned, because things do happen, and certainly from a singing perspective, lots of things can go wrong. You know, microphones don't work, lights don't work, someone gets ill all of a sudden, and so your best laid plans then fall off the wagon. And it's the same thing for preparing for a speech or presentation. You want to prepare so that the content is kind of embodied, but you want to then let go of how it sort of comes out of you in a way, because then whatever happens, you're not married to, it's got to be this way, because otherwise you're just going to get anxious. If you start off the speech not the way you practiced and planned, it's going to throw you off, and the nerves are going to start to build, because you're going to be like, oh, I didn't prepare for this. This was not how I planned to open the speech. So prepare in the sense of embodying the content, really knowing what it is you're going to talk about, but then let go of how it comes out. And I think then you're going to feel far freer to sort of respond as well. Someone might ask you a question, or someone might say something funny, or you might trip over your feet when you walk on stage. You know, all sorts of weird things happen. And, you know, from my perspective, from a singing perspective, sometimes I have not been on stage at the right time, or I've forgotten to come in where I meant to come in. And if I'm sort of married to it's got to look like this, otherwise I'm going to fall apart, then I would fall apart. So having that fluidity, I think, is so important. So that's another point. And I was going to talk about that later, but that came up in conversation now. Now, the next one, which we're still in this kind of physical side, is breath and breathing. Again, I've done a video on this specifically, but essentially, if you can get into this habit of deep belly breathing when you speak, but also before you're about to go on stage or do a talk online or whatever it is you're doing, you can just do 5 rounds or so of deep belly breathing, but through your nose. So you're and the idea is when you breathe out, you gently pull your tummy in. And that's actually how we speak, because we speak on the exhale. So we're training the breath. That's really how we can powerfully and effortlessly power the voice. So again, breathing through the nostrils also helps to actually calm our nervous system. So it's just very, very therapeutic. It feels quite nice to breathe through the nose. So I definitely encourage that. Just do a few rounds of that, but also if you can actually try and start to train your breath to go a little bit deeper, even when you're practicing your speech, you'll find that that will actually ground you a lot more and help you to feel more confident and less nervous when you do come to speak. The last couple of points are really more from the emotional perspective and the sort of mindset perspective. The emotional side of this, I think, is so important. And I almost feel when you work on this piece, the other pieces sort of take care of themselves to some extent. But ideally, you would do the physical and the sort of emotional side and do them together, because I think then you're going to show up way more powerfully and also more authentically. So first of all, the first point I wanted to make was our association with the word nervous and anxiety. And, you know, I feel really nervous about this. When we use those words, we automatically have a sort of in our mind what that conjures up. And for most of us, I'm sure that that doesn't conjure up the most calming, fluid, relaxed, creative vibes in our body. So if you think about it, though, when we are nervous, physically speaking, it's the same feelings we would have as if we were excited. You know, as another example, crying, we often just associate with sadness and grief and loss. And of course, we do cry when we're sad, but we also cry when we're happy. And it depends on the label that we attach to the meaning of the feelings in our body. So one of the things that you can try and just play around with this when you're not in a situation which, you know, is a sort of high profile situation, let's say, is to just start to notice how you label the feelings in your body. So when you feel that nervous energy, those butterflies in your tummy, maybe your chest feels a little bit tight, just notice it and notice what your mind does. And does it immediately go to like worst case scenario? Or could you start to open this up to, actually, maybe there's some excitement here. Maybe I just can't wait to share my content, my speech, my presentation. Maybe I'm just excited to talk to these people or this person. And just that subtle shift can often be enough to kind of just get us into a more calm state. So try that, because I think a lot of our anxiety comes down to how we label the feelings in our body. And finally, and definitely not least, this is probably something that will underpin everything that I've talked about, is letting go of the attachment of the outcome to our speaking, presentation, pitch, podcast, video, whatever it is you're doing. Because the reason we feel so nervous is because we are attached to a particular outcome from the speech that we're giving. For example, and this is going to look different for different people depending on who you're talking to and what you're doing and where you are. You could be pitching, so you're trying to win business. You could be doing a consult with a potential client, so you're trying to win their business. You could be doing a podcast and you want to gain followers and likes and subscribers. You could be doing a presentation at work and you are in the back of your mind thinking, if this goes well, then I might get a promotion. So all of that is going to have an impact on the anxiety we feel. Because then if we are attached to the outcome, we're going into it almost on the back foot, because then we're going to be analyzing everything we say. We're going to be watching the people looking at us, and do they like me? Did they find that interesting? They didn't ask me many questions. They look bored. We're so then attached to the external versus bringing it back to ourselves. And we are really caught up in that sort of survival, ego, conditioned mind of attached to this outcome of, this is only going to be successful if I get X, Y, Z. That's an enormous amount of pressure to put on yourself, which is going to cause you a lot of anxiety. And apart from anything else, we don't have any control over the people around us. As much as our egos like us to feel we're in control of people, the only control we have is on ourselves and our own ways, as I say, how we interpret things, how we see things. So what is actually a more empowering way, and does take a bit of training, is really looking at, why am I doing this? Like, why am I doing this video? Why am I doing this presentation? Why am I doing this pitch? And can you bring a sort of higher awareness, like a higher why into why you're doing it? What most people will do is, as I say, be looking for that attachment to a specific outcome. I need to win business. I need this person to like me, trying to avoid rejection, trying to avoid criticism, which only creates more anxiety for us. But if you can really embody, like, why am I doing this? So for me, like when I stand on stage and I sing, for example, I just love singing. And I'm not saying it wouldn't bother me if people, hated it and started throwing, eggs at me. But I'm going in from a different place. I'm not going in as much anymore. I think there is still always an element of this. I'm not going into it as much anymore, trying to get something from the audience, trying to win them over. I'm going in wanting to share something that I'm really passionate about and that I love. And if I bring that energy to the table, the interesting thing is it's reflected back to you. When we go in from this place of fear, and I've got to do this, and people have got to like me, and I can't be criticized, and what happens if people look bored or I don't win the business? We're going in with all of that sort of tension and that anxiety. And then we really kind of create the thing that we fear, which is really what happens anyway. So we have to own our energy. And I think one of the ways to do that is to really get clear on why you're doing what you're doing. what's the bigger reason? If I wasn't doing this out of survival or trying to be liked or trying to be approved of, which is all ego stuff, what's my higher reason for talking, podcasting, videoing, whatever it is you're doing? And there'll always be something, but you might have to dig deeper depending on if it's something that you feel like you have to do versus something that you really want to do. But there will always be something that there's always a bigger kind of reason behind what we're doing. So it's tapping into that. And then actually that frees you then, because then whatever happens, you have a bigger reason for doing it anyway. But the interesting thing is when we come from that higher place, what we notice, we don't tend to notice so much of the things that we're really fearing. And that's certainly what I have found. The more I bring my energy back to me and I own it, the less I see/notice people, you know, really not liking what I do or criticizing, etc., etc. So I hope that that's helped. The final point I just wanted to leave on is I do think some nerves are really important. I think that if we see nerves as just an energy, as I say, it's just how we label it. Is it excitement? Is it bad? Is it good? If we see it as just an energy, it's really just giving us that sort of propulsion out there. And actually, I think we need a bit of nervous energy / excitement to really give our best performance, our best presentation. So I think also coming from that perspective is really, really, really helpful, because then we can really direct that energy to giving the best presentation or performance. Oh, and and the final point I just wanted to mention, which is all kind of linked in with this sort of mind stuff, is visualization. The mind doesn't know the difference between what we imagine and what we experience with our senses. So a really powerful thing you can do is to actually, the night before, the morning of, really visualize yourself talking, podcasting, videoing, pitching, whatever it is you're doing, like really step into that, really embody that, and imagine yourself standing there and imagine the people watching you, listening, engaged, how you feel. You can even imagine down to what you're going to wear, if you know what you're going to wear. Even visualize the space that you're going to be in if you know that. Like, make it as real as possible in your mind, and you'll be amazed at how much better you'll feel, because from the mind's perspective, then it's already done this, it's already been here and done this. So when you come to do it for real, quote unquote, you're just going to feel so much better. So I hope that that's helped. There was a few points there. I had a lot to say on this topic, actually, I just realized. But very happy to answer any other questions. If anyone's got any other videos you'd like me to do, please do comment below. Really happy to do that, because it's more, I think it's more value for you, and I enjoy it because then I know that what I'm creating is really helping you. So thank you so much. If you enjoyed this video, please do share, subscribe, like. It just helps to boost my videos on YouTube, so to get it out to more people. But thank you so much, and I'll see you on my next video.